can start now.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to this TOEFL overview presented by Education USA Montenegro, American Corner for International Education Week. We're going to do this overview over TOEFL, but we are here every week doing TOEFL prep. So hopefully you can get some more information over what the exam is, what you can expect, and some tips and tricks for taking the exam. Every week we are doing TOEFL prep, usually Tuesdays at 3 with myself and my colleague Alexis, who will be here in a minute with us. And just as a quick introduction, my name is Laura. I'm working with American Corner this year. I am originally from Cleveland, but I'm doing my master's degree in Germany at the moment. And if you guys have any questions along the way, please feel free to ask, whether you put it in the chat or whatever, and we'll be happy to answer those for you. All right, so let me share my screen and we'll get started. Oops. All right, so what is the TOEFL exam? The TOEFL exam is measuring your English capabilities. Most of you are probably pursuing higher education options. It's 100% digital. It takes around 4.5 hours to complete. There's a $200 test fee. The scores are valid for 2 years from the time that you take it. You can register online 24/7 on the TOEFL website listed here, but there are particular test dates that you would register for at a particular center that's authorized to give the exam as well. And if you are in Montenegro, you're probably going to take it at the University Mediterranean. How is the test structured? So there are 4 sections on the TOEFL exam: reading, listening, speaking, and writing. The reading section will take you approximately 60 to 100 minutes. You can budget around 20 minutes per passage for this. There's 3 to 4 passages for you to read and 12 multiple choice questions for each passage. The listening section takes you about 60 to 90 minutes, so you can figure around 4 minutes for each listening. You will listen to 4 to 6 lectures and 2 to 3 conversations. And then for every listening, there will be 5 to 6 multiple choice questions each. For speaking, that takes about 20 minutes. There's 6 prompts. There's independent and integrated tasks, which I'll talk to you about in a second. And you can expect to speak from anywhere from 45 to 60 seconds for each of your responses. And finally, we also have the writing portion, which is 50 minutes long. There's 2 prompts. One is integrated and another one is independent. And you can expect to write for about 20 to 30 minutes per prompt. So what are these independent and integrated tasks? The independent tasks are you just independently either speaking or writing, responding to a prompt, while the integrated task will combine different parts of the TOEFL exam together. So for example, for the writing portion, an example of an integrated task would be to read a passage, listen to a conversation or lecture after that, and then write a response to both of those things. How is the test scored? You'll have 120 points total, 30 points per section. If you're pursuing undergraduate studies, you should aim for at least 90 points. And if you're pursuing graduate studies or any kind of scholarships, you should aim for at least 100 points. There's a mix of both computer and human scoring for the TOEFL exam, and it takes about 2 weeks after you take the test to get your scores back. So not too long, but just so you know. And through the TOEFL exam, what you pay for, you can send up to 4 copies of your scores to the institutions that you are applying for. I believe you can also send further copies, but it might cost you something extra. The test itself, it's going to focus more on the big picture of your English abilities rather than precise language or grammar. So don't worry about knowing all of these different very specific vocabulary words or the difference between the past perfect and the third conditional. They're not going to ask you stuff like that. They're just going to see what your comprehension is and look at your big picture English capabilities. Yes. So where are the test scores accepted? It's the preferred test for most US schools and scholarships. It's widely accepted at any school where English is the language of instruction. And you can look up all the institutions where it's accepted on their website, but just to keep in mind, you should always double check with the institutions you plan to apply for before taking the TOEFL exam, because you never know. In the case that they don't accept the exam and that's your top choice, you want to make sure you really know that before you're paying and preparing for this test. So again, always check these requirements of your selected schools first. How can you prepare for the test? So there's many different ways that you can prepare for the test, but some of our recommendations are to have a look at the official TOEFL website itself. They have a lot of different free preparation materials there, overview of all the questions, different kinds of questions that you can expect, overview of all the sections, and there is a complete practice test available there as well. You can also come to American Corner. We have TOEFL prep books available for you for your use there as well. You can also check out edX. There's a lot of TOEFL test preparation there, and practice reading, speaking, writing, and listening in English regularly any way that you can. Some websites that we recommend here are ed.ted, National Geographic, Scientific American, NPR, Freakonomics, stuff like this. You can also prepare by watching, YouTube videos, listening to podcasts, reading books, reading articles. But when you are looking at more test prep, I would recommend something more academic, because the English that you're going to be tested on through the TOEFL is going to be English that you can expect in an academic setting. So when you go to sources that have maybe a little bit higher level of English, that'll definitely be better preparation than just like a YouTube video or something like that, for example. And then of course, we also provide test prep right here through Education USA. And we focus each week on a different section of the exam. So we're happy to help out as well. So just reach out to us. Some general tips and tricks for the exam. Over reading, I think the biggest thing to keep in mind is not to read carefully, but to read actively. It is super important to not read every single word. I know that might sound weird, but we definitely want to make sure that we are skimming through, and Alexis may comment in on this as well. Hi.
Hello.
Hello. So here's my other colleague, Alexis. She helps with the TOEFL prep sessions as well each week. So now we're just going through the tips. So please feel free to chime in anytime with additional information. But yeah, so don't read carefully, read actively, read the first sentence of each paragraph carefully and skim the rest. Practice identifying the purpose and the main idea of each passage. Answer the easy questions first, the harder ones later. So try not to take too much time. If you're not sure right away, skip it and come back to it just to make sure that you're managing your time properly. And learn how to rephrase what you read into your own words as well. So a lot of this you're going to be able to do better and better with practice. I don't think you can practice too much. Don't wait until the week before you want to take the test as well, because some of these things, they are quite difficult at first, but as you practice and do them more, you will get better at it. So, yeah. Any other things you want to add to reading?
Nope, you've covered them. I'll pop in later.
Okay. For listening, it's important to learn to identify the important information and write it down. Note-taking is going to be a massive, important friend of yours for the TOEFL exam. Taking notes is super important. So just try to learn how to identify important information and write it down. Beware of digressions. You'll hear a lot of digressions through all the listening. And so once you get to know the different kinds of listenings, you'll be aware of like what are digressions, what's important and what's not. Practice note-taking. Of course, don't write everything that you hear, but what's important, and that'll be easier for you to figure out as you practice more and more. It's also important to identify what the lecture is about, what they are saying about it, and what examples they use. If they're using examples or stressing certain points, you can be certain that those will probably come up in the questions that follow. And also listen for unfamiliar words and phrases and try to define them. If they're popping in with unfamiliar words in the listening, you can also probably expect that those will be involved in some kind of question that follows as well. All right, and for speaking, make sure you speak in a calm, relaxed manner, free of pauses and interruptions. Try to come across as confident as you can. And remember that timing is also key. As we mentioned, you only get around 45 to 60 seconds to respond, which might seem like a short time, but it can also feel like a really long time in the moment as well. And you need to make sure that you are fulfilling that time frame, that you don't speak too much and you get cut off at 60 seconds, but also that you're not speaking too little and only speak for 20 seconds. So it might be weird to record yourself speaking, but it is a really important thing to do just to practice and get used to this timing. Also use the skills you practice for reading and listening and apply it to speaking tasks, because you'll have these integrated tasks where it involves just more than one aspect of English. And you'll see that there's a lot of overlap throughout the TOEFL sections that will be handy for you in different parts of it. Also, we do offer sentence by sentence templates to feel more calm and prepared. You'll notice that a lot of the speaking tasks, whether they're independent or integrated, will follow the same kind of structure. It's just addressing a different question. So as you practice more and more, you'll become more familiar with how exactly to answer these questions. All right, and get used to speaking to a computer. So it's digital, as we said. It's weird maybe to speak to a computer. I think we've all gotten a little bit better at that this year, of course, in these unique circumstances, but it can be weird at first. So just, it all comes down to practice and getting used to the test format and being more familiar with what exactly is expected of you. And if you get used to these kinds of things, it'll definitely help your score. So part of it is preparing for the English part of the exam. The other part is just preparing for the test format itself. So you just got to balance those in practice as much as possible. And then finally, for writing, make sure you convey your ideas in a clear, concise manner through all of your writing. Again, timing is kind of everything in this exam. Practice writing an organized essay in 20 to 30 minutes. It's not a lot of time. The time will go by fast, but if you practice this test format again, it will help you to be better on the exam itself. Again, for this one, use the skills you practiced for reading and listening and apply it to the writing tasks. And practice writing in a direct, organized manner for clear, understandable essays. And notes and outlines will help save you time as well. And we also offer assistance with this in our TOEFL sessions, just kind of giving you an outline to follow as you start practicing for the first time and get used to taking notes and outlining an essay in a very quick way to be able to actually write a complete essay in that 20 to 30 minute time frame. Again, you want to make sure that you do use outlines and notes so you can avoid writing, deleting, and rewriting. You definitely don't want to start writing, halfway through realize that's not what you want to write anymore, and then have to delete your whole essay and then start all over again. That's not going to be super great either. Yeah. All right, so do we have any questions? I think they were being sent through, but I haven't seen anything, so I think so far so good. Alexis, do you want to add anything?
And I guess I can, oh, muted. Okay, great. I guess I can just reiterate important points about the TOEFL exam, because I missed some parts, but I think I'll just go over what I think should be worth mentioning more than once either way. What we just talked about, note taking, is vital to doing well on the TOEFL exam as well. Whether you're practicing or you're doing it or you're taking the actual test, you can never be taking enough notes. I mean, there's a point where you take too many notes and then suddenly you lose track of what things are happening outside of that because you're just so focused on writing and you don't have a lot of time to write and think about note taking and also actually do the test. But when it comes to helping you be prepared to write or to speak or to listen and answer questions, note taking is essential. It allows you to be able to store information that maybe you can't fully remember or pack up in your mind, especially with the pressure. And it allows you to just be able to put that to the side and then go back to it when you're actually answering questions later on. So note taking is very important. We highly suggest it. We find a lot of times in the beginning, most people aren't very used to taking notes while they're listening to something. So we just want to remind you over and over again to take notes. It is never bad to take notes. If anything, it will not work in your favor if you do not take notes. Because Laura and I have read through prompts and stuff and reading passages, and even we don't necessarily fully understand how glaciers work or how, all of these biomechanics work or whatever that you have to read about. So the TOEFL exam is designed to test your English language and your proficiency. It is important to think about it in general, as most of you guys who are thinking about taking a TOEFL exam are probably planning to do higher education in an English-speaking country, mainly the US, for this TOEFL exam. And so if you're doing that, then you have to think that this TOEFL exam is basically, for people in the States, is a way to gather information about your readiness to be able to enter a higher education institution and be able to sit down, whether it's a technical class or a general class, and be able to listen to what the professor is saying and understand the material, to be able to take part in writing essays, which is something that you will do no matter what higher educational school you go to. You will have to write an essay, more than one at some point. And so being able to write in the native language of that country in English, to be able to respond to the teacher, whether it's through public speaking, which you will have to do at some point, present something, talk about a topic, or even respond to a question that the teacher may be asking specifically to you. So that goes into speaking. So, and then reading something. So reading material for homework and reading from the textbook and being able to understand that material and do well on a test or answer questions for homework afterwards. So all of these things, these specific skills, these specific sections of the TOEFL exam test these skills that you will need no matter what major you're trying to go into, or no matter what school you want to go to. These are all things that you will have to be proficient at in order to just excel in what you're doing. So that is why the TOEFL exam is created. Basically, it's the best way for them to gather just an overall idea of where you're at in your English level, to be able to succeed when you go to an English-speaking country and want to study there. So that's what I can think of now to throw in there, but we do have some questions, so we can go over those.
Yeah, so just to answer some of the quick questions that I saw. So what's the price of it? It's $200. You usually take it at a testing center, but I believe at the moment there is an at-home option because of just the circumstances of COVID. And the price of our prep session, it's free. You sign up per email, and then you are invited via the Zoom link every week. It's usually Tuesdays at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and we go for about an hour. And then some more general information about the prep course. So this is an outline over the past few weeks, what we try to work on. We're typically focusing on one skill, probably for 1 or 2 weeks at a time, but we just, as we see the same familiar faces come through and get to know you guys and what your strengths are and your weaknesses are, this is obviously subject to change, and we might maybe spend an extra week on reading or writing, and maybe we spend less time on speaking or something else, or we come back to something later on. So here's a general idea of what you can expect, but it is subject to change, and we try to make sure that it's as relevant for you guys as possible.
Sorry, I'll add on that we usually take, it depends on how long we have or how long it takes to go into a section, but we will introduce the section. Usually you guys will get some tips specifically, because we did offer tips right now in this introduction PowerPoint, but we have specific PowerPoints for each section that have specific advice and tips and what to expect on that section. For example, in our reading PowerPoint, we even offer what types of questions you'll run into in the reading part of the TOEFL exam, and it'll go over inference questions and all of the following except type of questions, and all of these detailed questions and stuff like that, that explain and show an example of how a test question would look like and what's expected of you and how to answer that. So they're very useful. We usually introduce the section by going over that PowerPoint, going over some tips, and then having you guys start practicing usually in that week if we have time. And if not, we move into the next week to do that as well. But as Laura said, it really just depends on who comes, where you're at, what you've already practiced, what you need work on. And we try to just adjust our session based on your needs and then move forward from there.
Yeah, exactly. And we also have a Google Drive available so anybody who comes to the sessions, we add you to our shared Google Drive, and it has all of our PowerPoints, all of our resources. We have practice exercises on there and just like additional practice resources as well for you guys to access. So as long as you kind of come to one, we add you to the Google Drive, and there's additional resources for you there as well. So we try to help you out as much as possible there. There's also an event page on Facebook for updates about that I'm pretty sure is updated weekly. Otherwise, you can also contact American Corner. And again, there's this Google Drive access as well. And so our kind of vision for the TOEFL prep course is that hopefully by the end of the course, you understand and feel more comfortable with the layout of the exam. You've received personalized feedback from a native English speaker and teacher. So Alexis and I are both native speakers, and hopefully that is helpful to you. We hope that you gain confidence by having guided practice and testing on each section, gain familiarity with the types of questions TOEFL will ask in each section. And yeah, so that's pretty much the overview of that. So how successful are our applicants? So just last month, a few reported scores of over 100, 104, 106. And as I mentioned before, that's the score that over 100 is a score that you should aim for graduate studies and scholarships. So that's very well, I think. Yeah. The national average is 81. So 104 and 106 is very awesome, comparatively speaking there as well. And if you're going for your undergraduate studies, you should aim for 90 and above. So 106 and 104 is a great place to be.
I will add on and say that our test prep sessions are great. I love them. Laura loves them. But we will say that 1 hour a week of studying for the TOEFL exam is not what we expect or want out of you, or something that you should want for yourself. In order to do well on this TOEFL exam, our student that got over 100 was not just coming once a week to the test, to our prep sessions, but they were probably also staying at home and studying, spending an hour or so at least a day and just doing prep questions and going over the material just in preparation for the TOEFL exam. So what we like to push for you guys is to be able to do this on your own also. There's a lot of resources nowadays, especially with COVID. Everyone is trying to create something that's easier to study and do well through online sources. And so you have a lot of availability of online material through the internet. And so what we want from you guys is to spend time also not just coming to our prep sessions. So I highly recommend them, and you should. They help to just be aware of what to expect, and then to practice a little bit to get some advice and some tips from us personally, where we can help you, especially when it comes to speaking, and we can tell you what necessarily you would need to work on to improve. And it's just easier to have a native speaker hear from you and for you to ask us directly. It's a lot simpler to do it that way. But also what you would then do is just go home and keep practicing on your own. It's very easy to practice for the TOEFL session or for the TOEFL exam when you're on your own, using just some of the sources that we have in our Google Drive, and then just sitting down, timing yourself, and going through the questions and answering them, whether it's through your phone by speaking, or jotting down the answers on a piece of paper, or writing on a piece of paper for your essay, whatever it may be. So we actually like to give you guys homework every once in a while just to push this idea idea of practicing on your own, because it's very important. In order to succeed with the TOEFL exam, over and over again, aside from coming to the prep sessions, we want you guys to be able to we want you guys to want to study at home, to want to improve yourself, not just in the 1 hour session that we have with us, but also on your own. And we have ways of helping you do that, where you can find some stuff that you can use to study and do that independently. So.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point. Of course, we can't guarantee any kind of score for you, but we would love to help you as much as we possibly can. Just know that at the end of the day, you do also have to put in the work. And from my own personal experience of having to learn a foreign language and take a certified exam to go and live there or study or whatever, it takes a lot of work, and you definitely can't expect the week before the exam to learn everything you need for the exam. It definitely takes time. And so an hour a week is not enough, but at least hopefully it's a start and it's a help, and it inspires you and gives you resources to work on it outside of just our prep sessions. And yes, we also have the competitive college club. They work throughout the entire year on studying for the exam as well, and just improving upon their English and preparing for university, essentially. Sorry, I'm also reading questions if they come through as well. Yeah, do we have anything else? Any other questions? Any other points we want to make sure that we make? If you have any questions at all too beyond the session, I mean, contact us. We're happy to help. That's what we're here to do. So this is not like a last chance to ask any questions or anything like that. Oh, we also have another extra video with test taking tips. It's a minute. They're quite simple, and that is also available. Is that available online through the? Oh, I can try and share it here, but it might be difficult. Otherwise, you can find it on American Corner social media. Let's do it that way on the Facebook page. Again, that's just to give you some general test taking tips for the TOEFL or other tests that you're taking as well in preparation. Just, you know, pointing out, make sure to practice, make sure to give yourself enough time to really prepare for the exam. And a few other things on there as well. So check out the Facebook page or American Corner social media, and you can find more resources on that as well. All right. And Alexis, do you have anything else? I'm trying to go back and see beyond this.
Okay, some final comments. Well, just a general reminder, if you just came in or if you came late, we are talking about the TOEFL exam. We're talking about the fact that there are 4 sections on the TOEFL exam: reading, listening, speaking, and writing. These all test specific skills that you will need in general, just to be able to do well in whatever your plan is to use the TOEFL exam for, usually higher education for master's or even undergrad. So just keep that in mind. If you don't know what score you need, we did talk about scores, and usually to get some scholarships, it's to get a 100 or higher. So if you do not know what score your university specifically needs, it's a good idea to start looking into that. Or if you don't even know what university you want to go to, those are things to think about. If you want to take the TOEFL exam, you need to have some sort of plan. And so it's important just to keep those things in mind. Each university has its own requirement or score of what they require. And so if you don't really know what you're doing, or you're in high school and you're still like, I want to take it because I want to study abroad, but I don't know where or what I want to do yet, it's important to just keep these things in mind, because it varies depending on what university you plan on going to, and those things. So just know TOEFL exam is it's an important exam. You do have to pay for it, so don't take it before you actually need it. And the actual exam, the scores only last 2 years. So if you are just starting off high school, this may not be for you, not yet. May be good to keep thinking about it and to just think about what you would like to do. But if you do have a plan, just know the score does last for 2 years. It does cost money. And so you want to be careful about when you take it and how well prepared you are before you take it. So don't rush into it. You have a lot of resources. You can come to our prep sessions. We are fun people. Laura and I are both here in European time. I am in Montenegro and Laura is in Germany. So we are both here around the same, in the same time zone-ish. And so you can always reach out to us and know that we are here and happy to help you guys. And practice tests help learn where you are. Exactly. Practice tests are very good. They kind of help learn where what you need to work on. So we highly suggest practicing, because if you do not know in what level you're at or what you need work on, you won't know unless you try it. And so you need to practice in order to see what you're getting wrong consistently, or what you're struggling with, what areas you need to work on. The only way to know that, it's not by taking notes about tips of the TOEFL exam, but it's about practicing and seeing in what areas you need more work, in what parts of the reading passage, what type of questions stumped you or stopped you from understanding, in what type of responses in essay writing were the ones that you found more difficult, or in speaking. And what in listening was your main issue? Was it not being able to take notes, or was it in time, or was it the pressure? What are things that are stopping you from being able to do well? The only way to find that out is to practice. So that's why we highly suggest taking practice tests and session and practicing the sections specifically, each of the sections specifically, before you engage in an actual practice test of the whole TOEFL exam. Be reminded that whether you're practicing a section or a test, they're all timed. And even if they don't have the timer on there for you and you have to time yourself, they still tell you you have 20 minutes to read and answer these questions. And so you just put a timer on your phone and you time yourself for those 20 minutes to read and answer the questions. And so everything is all laid out for you. There are clear directions and instructions on how to do it and how it works. Generally, I find the TOEFL exam to be pretty straightforward and easy to take, as long as you are prepared and know what to expect. Okay. So that is my little spiel. There was another question. Is it easier to take TOEFL or IELTS? Laura, you've helped with that, right?
I mean, I don't know that there's one that's easier than the other. At the end of the day, they're still measuring the same thing. They're measuring your English proficiency. And so there's not one way to measure that easier than the other. They might have a slightly different test format, but they're going to be, it's going to be similar. It's whatever, if you have the option to do both, I would do whichever one you're more familiar with the test format, because of course, one part of that is the English proficiency. The other part is the test format. So if you're already familiar with TOEFL, I would go with TOEFL and not have to learn a whole new test format. If you're already familiar with IELTS, then maybe IELTS is the one that you do. But yeah, one is not going to be easier than the other. Would be my recommendation there. There's also a Duolingo test as well, and we'll have a short session on that tomorrow. The Duolingo English test is also quite new in the last few years, particularly this year. A lot of universities are accepting it instead of TOEFL, particularly because of COVID. In Duolingo, you do 100% at home. It's also a lot cheaper than the TOEFL, but it's not necessarily accepted as widely. So for that one particularly, please make sure that you double check with your institution that you plan on applying to first, that they accept it. Because if they do, it's a good test to take and it's cheaper, but it does have a different structure to it. And you can find out more information about that tomorrow, but that is another test that is out there. At the end of the day, you really have to check and see where you're planning on going and check with that institution, look on their website, write admissions, and be very specific about which exam that they want to see with your application. Yeah.
We've covered these bases. Okay, I think we've covered it all. Do we have any final questions?
And again, if you have questions that come up, after this, feel free to reach out and we'd be happy to help out as we can. But
well, it was great to be able to do this with you guys. Hopefully you found it useful and helpful to just get an overview of the TOEFL exam. If you do want to hear more about it, practice with native speakers, and learn more about the specific sections and hear our wonderful voices again, you can feel free to join our prep sessions every week and sign up for those. And then also feel free to send an email to podršku@educationusa.org or find American Corner on social media, Education USA, and we would be happy to help you out through there. That email, I'll say it again, podršku@educationusa.org. That's where you can find Anitza and be able to contact us in order to learn more about the TOEFL exam or any exam for college prep. But yeah, aside from that, I don't know, Laura, are we finished?
Yeah, I think we covered the basis of it. Of course, this was just a quick overview. If you want to get more details about each of the individual sections, please join us on Tuesdays. We'd love to help you out more and give you more details. But just as a general overview, I think this is a good introduction to the TOEFL exam and hopefully answer some of your initial questions about what to expect if you are looking into taking it. And thank you for joining us.
Yep.
Happy to be here.
Thank you guys. Good luck studying. And yeah, happy
Hope
studying.
we see you next Tuesday.
Yes, we will see you next Tuesday. We wouldn't know if you don't come because I don't know who's here, but it's okay. It's fine. Okay, guys, have a